Man, Emmanuel, you're what, in Houston?
I'm based in Texas, in Austin.
Austin.
Yes.
Um, you got I don't know what the weather patterns are for you guys, but we are schizophrenic here in Atlanta. It'll be, we'll have 70 and then 40, 70 and then 40. And it's absolutely bonkers when we go in between seasons. And it's no fun. It's no fun. But you were telling me you've got this beautiful, what is it, a lake with a 10-mile loop around it? Well, that sounds absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful right now. This is actually my favorite part of the year. You know, the joke about Austin is that we don't have any season. It's always the same temperature, which is not really true because we have mild, warm, hot, and get me out. So right now is the nice part of the year. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds about like Florida a little bit. So you've got this 10 mile. So are you pretty? I mean, do you regularly go out and go around this? That's a 10-mile loop. I mean, that's like a major
Yeah,
exercise.
yeah, absolutely love it. You know, I used to live in big cities. I was originally from Paris, and I lived in Europe for many years. And it's kind of nice to experience, the what big cities have to offer in terms of museums and restaurants and bars and everything you want. But I kind of personally I'm a runner, and I kind of like going outside. And something I really really get to appreciate here in Austin, it's so easy. It's so easy. Basically, I go down, the it takes me like 5 minutes to get on the trail, and
It's
we have like
incredible.
10-mile loop around Town Lake, which is absolutely beautiful.
So what's the furthest you've ever run?
The biggest mistake I've made was to run a 66 miles. Yeah, no, don't do that.
Okay, so you did an ultra.
Yeah, I did. I've done an ultra. Yeah, I've done an ultra. I used to run the distance. I've done marathons. I used to do triathlons. I've done Ironman.
Oh,
Half.
so you did the? Did you do the full? The
No,
full?
no. I kind of like I qualify. I was doing triathlons, and I was competing. I qualified 3 times for world championship, so I was really into it. And I would prefer like speed over like distance.
Right. So like the shorter try
Shorter,
distance. Yeah, the
yes.
shorter try distance as well. I mean, it's an exercise in suffering, basically. How much
Yeah.
can you suffer for people who have done some swimming and maybe they've done some riding and some bike riding? It's really, really difficult to link them all together. When
That's
you come out of the water
that is
and you
true.
hit the bike, I don't think that's not the challenge. The challenge is
Mm.
leaving the bike and running.
Yeah.
Um, we used to train for that, and I don't know if you call it that. We call them bricks.
Yes.
It's the brick training. It's going right from the bike to the run. It's
Mm.
really painful. It doesn't feel good at all on your legs.
I actually, you what you're saying is absolutely right, and I think that makes a big difference with other sports. It's the mental challenge because in most sports, when you compete, if you're kind of excel at something, you try to improve, but you get some satisfaction that you're doing okay, or you're doing well. But with triathlons, it's really, really difficult to be naturally gifted in all three legs. So typically,
Right.
typically, there's always one thing you have where you're not really good at, and it's kind of hard to accept that, um, to go after like this big mountain. You maybe you personally, it was for me, it was swimming. I started swimming when I was much older, and I started, at age 35, out of nothing. For
That's
many
tough.
years.
I've
Yeah,
seen it's hard to learn to swim.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was a pretty decent runner, and I was doing pretty good on the bike. But when I was swimming, I was like, I was struggling, and
You were
so
literally a fish out of water. Sorry,
I was
had
not
to
a fish
do
in
it.
the water. I was not a fish in the water. And so, for many, many people, when they start struggling with it, they'll be like, oh, let me focus on what I'm good at. And that's it. And here, the challenge is like, yeah, you actually have to accept that, yeah, you're not going to be in the front pack or something, and you're going to be struggling a bit, but it's part of the journey. And ultimately, we improve. And yeah, I was very happy with all these races.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. It gets my blood going when I think about doing that. Um, we're December now, and so pretty much everything is shut down. No one's. I mean, yeah. I mean, there are still some cycling clubs that are going,
Mm.
but here in the winter, I mean, it's just brutal. It's just too cold. Um, it's interesting. Uh, I've read studies that some of the best business people are highly competitive in sports. Do
Mm.
you have any startup experience prior to what we're going to be talking about today?
So I started my first business more than 10 years ago. But before that, I used to work corporate jobs, more regular jobs. And it was, I honestly never thought I would be switching to more an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. And yeah, it's been a fascinating and exciting journey, also very challenging. And probably it definitely helps to, I guess, the perseverance, and is definitely, I think, a big part of the success for an entrepreneur. So I'll take it as a positive.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that's kind of that correlation
Yes.
is the perseverance, the struggle, the pushing through when it's very uncomfortable. It's easy to get a lot of self doubt, a lot of negative talk, going in your head, particularly if you're doing a long endurance exercise. The thoughts that you get in your head can be very, very negative,
Yes, it's true. That is true. Yes, absolutely.
very, 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 very negative. Well, one final little sports tidbit before we really kind of dive in. I want to find out more about this journey that you're on now because it's kind of a fascinating little niche that you're in. And I say niche because it seems like a niche. I want to figure out how you got into it. But talking about the suffering and such, uh, young guy, he's a financial analyst. I mean, he's probably in his early 30s now. You may not have heard of him. I'll just throw his name out. Have you heard of a guy named Pete Kostelnick?
No, I don't know that name.
So Pete Kostelnick, he holds the record
Mm.
for the fastest run across America.
Oh, across America. Wow, that is insane. Yeah.
It's
What?
absolutely insane.
Mind
It
blowing.
is. It's
Mind blowing.
it.
So,
When I'm about to tell you how mind blowing it is. So
mm,
he's early 30s. I mean, he might have done it when he was 29, but I followed him as he did it live.
mm.
Um,
How
and
long is it?
he's got the Guinness record now for the fastest time. I think it was like I don't know where it was, if it was San Francisco or L.A., whatever, and then you run across to New York. Self-supported. Well, he had a team, but I mean, you support yourself, go across country.
Mm, mm.
He averaged. You want to guess how many miles
So
running he
yeah, that's what.
averaged?
How many miles total is that? Do you know?
Oh, it's over 3,000 miles.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know. That sounds like even if it was to run 20 miles a day, 40 miles, I don't know. It would take
Emmanuel, 80,
oh my God, 80 miles, 80 miles
80
a day. That's what he was
a
doing.
day
Wow. Wow.
average.
Wow.
For you runners out there,
That's,
this will blow your mind. Even for you cyclists.
that
I
is,
mean, for sight, listen, I feel good. I feel like I've accomplished something if I cycle 100 miles, if I do a century ride, because we'll do a couple century rides a year. And it's fun leading up to them, the training and stuff like that. The triathletes obviously they do 110 for the full, but he was running 80 a day. So crazy,
wow.
absolutely crazy talk. All right, well, I don't want to get too niche because that long distance running is very niched as well. But so I want to understand a little bit more about this business, right? You're focused on identifying
Correct.
fraud within candidates,
Yes.
right, in the applicant pool that are out there. This is kind of a niche. How did you land
Yeah.
in this? Did you get burned yourself personally? Did something happen to you and you're like, it's
So
going to be your life mission to prevent anyone else from getting scorched by a fake candidate?
Yeah, so our experience has been, we I launched a business like more than 10 years ago to automate the reference checking process. And so we've been working with a lot of recruiters, obviously. And
Yeah.
our users were telling us that they were fed up. They were completely sick with fake candidates because it became like a massive issue, especially after COVID, and it's just such a waste of time. And you can imagine how frustrating that is. These are professional recruiters, so they would match talents with job opportunities, and
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a trust contract completely broken. So they're speaking to individuals, people, and with a straight face, they would completely lie about many things and deceive. And so it can be very very frustrating that you're dealing with with people that basically don't care, and they put you on the spot. They put you in situations where um, if you're professional recruiters, you're being compromised with your clients. You can lose your reputations, client relationships. Or if you're just an employer as part of a big organizations, and you hire for your own good, you don't want to bring in people to the team that can delay projects, don't do the work, get paid for nothing, steal laptops, get access to data that are sensitive. It's just very very annoying.
I just I I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm always surprised when people are apparently smart enough to pull this off, and yet they use their intellect to do something so deceptive. And I have very little sympathy for that.
Yeah,
And
and
I you touched on a few things there, Emmanuel. The client trust
yeah,
can be you can probably get away with probably one mistake. If you've had a good relationship with them, maybe you can get away with one mistake. And it depends on what that mistake is. Like if you find out the candidate was a fraud before they got hired. I think if they get hired,
mm,
good lord. Oh, what's some of like, tell me what are some of the worst case scenarios? You touched on them. So let's say you hire someone, IT. I guess it's you said around COVID it really ramped up because everyone was working from home, and
yeah,
that's why they got away with this.
yeah.
So how are they doing this now, and what are some of the worst case scenarios that you've witnessed?
So some of the worst case scenarios are, I would say, two things. It would be when there's a lot of at stake, a lot of money lost. And the second thing is like level of sophistications when they are like they employ like techniques that are pretty sophisticated to commit fraud. I think this is the two most shocking. So the cost can go, for one bad hire, it can cost you up to 5, 10 million. That seems crazy. But the cost, the biggest nightmare scenario would be to actually have bringing on board people who are very skilled, but their motivation is to get access to data.
Oh,
And and yeah,
that will
and
particularly we're talking about IT, right? I mean, we didn't touch on this, but from what I understand, this is probably a little more prevalent in the IT space. You focus more in the IT space.
so it's more prevalent in IT, but we see it expanding to other verticals. And unfortunately, in fraud is where there's money. When there's like something to, and there's so much fraud everywhere. So yeah, probably the worst case scenario is people trying to infiltrate businesses, and that happens every day. Every single day there are like more than 2,000 attacks, cybersecurity attacks on U.S. businesses, and one third comes from insiders, meaning employees and contractors. And the cost is, if your data has been stolen, you can face legal fees, for data breaches. These people can also ask for ransom. So they pay me $1 or $2 million. If not, I'm going to sell the data on the dark web or Telegram or And
Yeah, some open source,
open
where it
source.
goes.
And you're in that positions where, should we pay, should we not pay? And there's no guarantee that they're not going to monetize the data anyway. So the average cost globally for these data breaches is like 9 millions. So that's, yeah, the cost can be massive.
That's
So the,
incredible. How much is it globally? How much is it?
overall, the average cost of a data breach is $9 million.
Oh, I say a data breach is a roughly on average 9 million.
Dollars that you would cost a company that has been victim
Yeah.
of a data breach.
So you believe that that's the motive, the intent
This is
generally is we're skilled, so we're able to get the job, but our real motive is to uncover some kind of espionage or corporate,
no.
uh,
So
infiltration.
this would probably be like the worst case scenario, like the nightmare scenario.
So what are like like more common? I
Well,
mean, that is, I did. You're right. That is a worst case.
more common would be just people trying to get paychecks that they don't deserve,
Yeah.
either because they don't have the skills and they try, they deceive with, try to get a job and high salary jobs, and but they cannot do the work, or they thinking, they try to learn on the fly or something. But you hire someone who was not qualified. They just cheated during the selection process, or they have the skills, but they want to make more money. So the one paycheck is not enough, and they try to get three, four, five, 10, and then they even
Wait,
bribe.
you mean they're trying to hold multiple jobs at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
I must be like the most naive person in the world. I mean, these thoughts never even come to me. That's why
so
I shouldn't be surprised that people are out there doing that. Okay, what's the most number of jobs you've ever heard of that someone was
well,
able to same at the same time?
So I don't know the most, but I can tell you that they're not even shy about it. They brag about it. So there are posts on there are people posting about it, and they're saying, "I'm making 1.5 million a year. I get 10 jobs. I can coast for 4 to 8 weeks before I get fired by any of this job." So there's a lot of money, and it's
So they just literally, I think they've got 10 jobs. By the time they all start figuring it out that you're not doing anything or you're not doing it well,
I think
you've
it's
gotten
really.
2 months. And you know what, too? A lot of these companies give sign on bonuses.
Yeah, so they sign in, and during onboarding, there are like laptops. Laptops are being stolen, small cost. There's a lot of the cost up front for on in your payroll. The recruiters, they cost money, to deploy resources to interview people who are just fake. And yeah, so 10 jobs, they're not even shy about it. They brag about it. I think it's really, really difficult to wrap your head around it when it's not in your logic. If you're a good person and
Exactly.
you're you're thinking, fraud, it's kind of the exceptions, maybe 2 or 3%, and they don't. But it's really, really hard to imagine that actually fraud. No, in IT, it's 30, 40% of candidates, and the cost is enormous, and they do whatever. If there's money, everything goes.
Well, like I know you've got your secret sauce as to how you do it, but I'm kind of curious. Um, what are some obvious ways to maybe, if HR that's listening, a lot of people in HR are listening to this. So, like, what are some quick, easy tips for people to sort out
So
quickly, like the low hanging fruit? Like these
yeah,
people are obviously trying to scam.
I have to say that, and unfortunately, you always wants to be vigilant, because scammers have different tactics they can use, and so there's no silver bullet. There's not one thing you can do to weed them out, all of them. So it really takes like always to be on the alert. And so I know that a lot of recruiters, when they video interview people, they take screenshots to make sure that on the next interview it's always the same person, or when the person showing up at work is it's always the same person. They mask the person. Always ask the person to turn on the video. They cannot hear earplugs because someone else can give them the answers. They need to look at the camera and not looking at something else on another device, with answers such as GPT. No virtual background. You want to see, you want to be sure that you kind of
See the
get.
environment. You want to know that they're in the country that you think you're hiring them from.
Yeah, but these are like practices, for when you already start interviewing people, which means that when you're at that stage, you've probably spent already like some time, reviewing resumes, cross-checking informations, scheduling phone calls, interviews, and that's a cost, and that's a huge cost that we try to prevent with our solutions. But always be vigilant, cross-checking the information. You go on there, obviously, pull their LinkedIn profile, check when the LinkedIn account was created. Sometimes people would put, "Hey, LinkedIn helped me get this job," and you realize that they actually joined LinkedIn after after getting the job, which doesn't add up. Makes so these are like funny signs, but always be on the lookout, because ultimately, we catch them because they made mistakes. It's hard to for them to be always like perfect, but they can get very sophisticated. Um, just today we come up with like situations where the fake candidates, they went as far as creating a copycat of a legitimate business, a legitimate website. And you have like a legitimate company with their domain, and they just buy a domain that is looks alike, and you go to their webpage and it looks like the real legitimate business. It's all fake. And then you reach out to HR to verify employment, and yeah, you have people, accomplices that can definitely validate the lies.
They
And
can
you
dot
ask,
the I's, cross
yeah,
the T's, and pretend.
yeah, exactly. And
And
then
they
you
can have those profiles on LinkedIn as well.
absolutely, yeah, it serves all purposes. So it's really mind blowing. You don't get to think it this way because it's not necessarily part of of our logic if you've not been directly exposed, or if you're not fraud detections. But people have like so many ways of deceiving, and it can be very confusing, because we're not talking about trying to detect robots. No, we're talking about humans. In front of you, you have someone who can be very articulate, likable, and they have good stories, and they're completely lying. And they're
That's it does kind of blow the mind. I mean, I've I've heard people talk about, they have an instinct
yeah,
about somebody. Maybe
yeah,
it's a gut feeling or something.
yeah,
Call whatever you want. If someone is boldly lying to you and pulling it off, the
yeah,
first thing I want to go back to something you said. You said be vigilant.
yes,
You're talking about a mindset. You've
yeah,
got if you're so apparently that's what we really should have is this mindset that unfortunately there is a percentage of people out there that are pulling this scam off,
mm,
and you could be involved. It could be happening to you right now.
absolutely, absolutely,
And
absolutely,
if you have a suspicion, then don't bury that suspicion.
yeah, yeah,
Go after it. So you haven't obviously you're not going to divulge how you do this because this is your business. But I'm kind of interested though in the sense that it's a is this an AI technology solution you have? You've got something automated. Do you have a team of people that help with this? What's in general, what is it that people are buying when they work through you to flush these frauds out of the system?
yeah. So first is software. So it's not manual validations. It's everything is automated. It's a toolbox, so it's just not one tool, but it's three tools, because it takes multiple validations. And the tools are made to be, we have one tool, it's called iDigital Verification. And the beauty of it is very fast, quick, and effective. We only need the person's name, email, and phone. And so, which means you can already start using it, at stage one. As soon as you receive someone application, you receive someone resume, you can use that tool, and it's very effective to start detecting fraud. We have a second tool, which is a trap. It's reference checking for fraud detections. So if you're a recruiter and you've checked references before on candidates, I'm sure you know that 98% of references are positive. So and you might be wondering, what's the point? If reach out to people and they give me good things about the candidate, it's always the same.
That's true.
Yeah. So the
That's
point,
true. And it's particularly if you're going through a recruiter, let's be honest, you know, a recruiter wants to find the good references.
yeah, yeah. So the candidates typically themselves are providing the references, and they would typically provide names of people who can say good things about them.
Who are going to say good things. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Hmm.
Yeah. So typically, you receive positive feedback, but what you really, really want to know is that are the references real? And what we see is that, more than 15% of candidates fabricate their references. And at that stage, that's really critical because sometimes it's almost like the last step before extending an offer. So if it wasn't
Yeah,
for,
it is typically.
yeah. So if it wasn't, for that validations, these people would go through. And 15%, that's a huge number. That's a huge number. And we're adding a third tool, which is more a traditional document verifications, for passport, permanent resident card, visas, driver license with a selfie, making sure that the documents are not counterfeited and there's no deep fakes or AI generated images. So we
I
have.
mean, it sounds like you've really hit on a really important space. How much competition do you have realistically in this marketplace? I know you've been in it now for say 10 years. Um,
Yeah, so there are very, very few companies that would specifically focus on the fraud detections for recruiting. Uh, like just one other name that comes to mind. They do video interviews and they're known for detecting people who try to fake during video interviews. But for what we do, our solution, for something that we created that nobody else is doing is the first tool, iDigital verification. So that's a tool that we created to start detecting fraud at stage one. Before any time and more.
before you waste time
Exactly.
and money, resources, effort.
And all these tools are valid and they all complement each other. So we had situations where candidates have been able to pass through traditional background checks, get a job, and and then they turn out to be phonies, wanted by the FBI. It
Oh
happened.
Lord,
Wanted by the FBI because they turn out to be agents from North Korea. I don't know if you know that story, that North Korea has
I don't
been.
think I've heard this story.
So 2 years ago, the FBI released a warning that North Korea was trying to infiltrate U.S. businesses to finance their weapon program, and it was such a scam that was of such magnitude that if you were in IT, recruiting IT, probably you've been exposed. And so we had that situation where um, users, a company reach out to us because they've been victim of one of these North Korean bad actors, agents. And that person, yeah, went to work, for a company where they were managing sensitive data. And it turned out to be a part of the wanted list by the FBI because, it becomes like geopolitics. And so we put him to
And
the
somehow they pass through the.
So it's all the background check. So because that's why it comes with what we were saying. You always want to be vigilant because some of them they can be clear cut. You can see it right away that it doesn't add up. You go to their LinkedIn, and if you have eagle eyes, your recruiters, you'll say, "Oh yeah, I can see it." But some of them are really sophisticated, and just like the traditional methods of screening candidates, doing interviews, he won't cut it. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. These people are sophisticated. They can be very talented, and you only in the traditional selection process you only get to detect people who are not qualified for the jobs. But some of these people are actually very qualified for the jobs. They have the skills. It's just that they are bad actors, or they try
Yeah.
to get 5 jobs, or they try to get the job to subcontract to someone else. And so that's normally very difficult to detect during the selection process. And you need technology for that.
So can companies that are hiring or recruiters that are hiring, you've got the top of your funnel
Yes.
where everyone is coming in.
Yeah.
Does your technology solution, does it kind of integrate in somewhere to that top of the funnel where people go through and kind of automatically flagged and then out and they come out, or do you have to manually, as the recruiter, take these 5 people, push them over? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, we're doing
What's the integration?
so we're adding integrations, obviously, with all the ATS network. So we already have some, and we're adding more. Obviously, we understand that the more streamlined the process, the easier. So that's
That's
one of
the trend, Emmanuel. Everything is being automated right now,
yeah,
as you know. Everything's being automated.
absolutely. So we have already some integrations. Now, the ecosystem of ATS is pretty large. So we still
Oh,
we
it's enormous. I'm spending a lot of time. That's one of the reasons why you and I are talking is because
yeah,
I'm really wanted to do more of a deep dive in the space because having been in the space for, a couple decades, I've never really put my podcast spotlight on, staffing at all.
yeah,
It's always been, the clientele or the industries that I'm working.
mm,
So the the tech stack just keeps getting bigger and bigger,
yes.
for staffing. Um, we use Bullhorn. Are you looking to do any kind of integration with Bullhorn?
We're integrated into Bullhorn. We're integrated in Bullhorn, JobDiva. We have partnership with CPAL. So we're adding,
Yeah, that's great.
but we have many clients coming to us. They want a workday. So we'll
Oh,
definitely
the big boys.
look.
Yeah,
So yeah, so we have a bunch of ATS, and we're already in contact with them to implement the integrations, or it will be we're definitely into adding, more.
yeah,
Yeah. In the meantime, our idea is also for to cover because there's a wide range of ATS. So in the meantime, the solution would be to have like a Chrome extensions where you're on your ATS, you're on your candidate record, and with the Chrome extensions, we can extract, with obviously with your consent, data from the ATS automatically, so we can start doing the validations.
I've seen uh, a lot of different tools for data enrichment, and a lot of times they'll give you credits and things of that nature. Is
Mm.
that I don't know how structure this from a price point of view, but I would imagine you end up having credits or something that you can run a
Yes,
number of profiles through and things like that.
that is right. Yeah, that is right.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's very,
excellent.
very cost effective because our solution is being used, for instead of so traditional background checks, you would check 1 to 3 successful candidates that will make it up to or close to the offer stage, at that stage, the background checks are pretty expensive. But our solution is being used much more upfront. When you have 20 or 30 qualified candidates, and before you start interviewing, is it worth my time? Is it worth for me, to jump on a call like half an hour, which is expensive, and our solution is more than 10 times. It's very cost affordable. It's made to be used at the entry point for volume.
Yeah, yeah, because it saves the time. I think it's honestly, Manuel. I think it's a great idea. Again, I'm a little naive, and at the same time, I'm just shocked that
Yeah,
people
it's shocking.
are spending that much time and money and
Yeah,
effort in doing something that's completely um, immoral.
yeah,
For God's
absolutely.
sakes, I
But
mean,
yeah,
what
that's
is wrong with people?
exactly what is wrong with it. And shocking to me is that they're absolutely not shy about it. You can go on YouTube, you can go on TikTok. They advertise, they brag about it. There's plenty of ads on TikTok for these AI co-pilots. You have on YouTube, you can find videos, tutorials how to make $1 million a year. Scamming people.
You've just opened up a whole new can of worms for me. I'm just going to be heading down that rabbit hole. I can see more blog posts coming. Emmanuel, it's been fantastic. You're the first guest I've had on to really uncover this apparently quite a large problem.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm a little bit late to the game. I don't know, but you know, being forewarned is foreknowledge. So, or however that saying goes, you need to know about it so you can prevent it.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
Right, knowledge.
so, if
Absolutely.
someone wanted to kind of connect with you and find out more about how they can use this solution, what's the best way for people to find you?
Honestly, I think the best way, we go to our website, turbocheck.com,
Turbocheck.com.
and contact us, and our team, myself or our team, will reach out, and we'll connect to figure more.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think it's an obviously very very important part of protecting your data, protecting your assets, and just protecting your time. And
Absolutely.
frankly, saving face. I mean, the last thing you want is to have your boss come to you and go, you know that guy you just hired? Yeah. We just hired him over here for our sister company too. He's got two jobs under one of our umbrellas. That'd be insane. Emmanuel, great talking to you again today, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony.
We'll see you next time.
I'll see you there.